Good evening from Vietnam, Marshall. Thank you so much for spending your morning to join our Insight Sharing program and sharing your journey with Vivian, with me, and the audience of our show. We really appreciate that. And we we in our culture, Marshall, is so respectful if we can have you to help us to share to our audience who you are as a quick glance, and we can so that we can start the program all together. Can you help us to introduce who you are and the work that you do, please?
Well, my name is Marshall Goldsmith, and over the years, have done three things. I travel all around the world speaking and teaching. I've been to 102 countries. I've only been to Vietnam once. I'd like to certainly come back again. So I've been to 102 countries. I love speaking and teaching. Then I coach executives. I've been the coach of the CEO of Ford, Pfizer, Glaxo, the World Bank, Walmart, the Mayo Clinic. So I've coached people from all around the world, and I love coaching because I learned that. And then finally, I write books and articles. So I've written or edited 49 books. I've done 7 bestsellers. I've done now 4 New York Times bestsellers. And my new book is a New York Times bestseller, so that's number 4. And I have also done 42 books that were purchased only by my mother, my father, and my relatives.
Well, Marshall, your your reputation is so huge to in the world, and then we really admire all the works that you do. And today we're gonna bring you all the way back in different point of life and in your in part of time in your life, and we want to understand what makes Marshall Goldsmith who he is today. So that is the whole purpose of the whole interview today. All right.
Sure.
Yes. So when we were young, we always have a dream of when we grow up, we're gonna do this kind of work, be this kind of person, and contribute something to the community around us. And I always want to be an astronaut. I didn't remember what Vivian wanted to be.
Want to be a singer.
So she wanted to be a singer. So when you were young, Marshall, what did you dream of when you grow up? What kind of person you're gonna become?
You have to realize I was brought up very poor. And the first 4 years I was in school, we did not have indoor plumbing. We had an outhouse. My high school came in next to last place in the state of Kentucky in academic achievement. And Kentucky was at the bottom of the United States. So I was not brought up in an environment where expectations were high at all. So I was brought up with very low expectations. So I thought if I had any kind of professional position at all, it would be hugely positive given my background. So I was not brought up with lofty aspirations.
But when we look at when we research about your the background, there was an article published by you saying that there's a lot of things that shaping us who we are from the way that our parents teaching and raising us, right? And
Yes.
can you share about that? Like,
Yeah, again, my mother went to college for 2 years and was a teacher. But my father had some silly idea that women shouldn't work. So the bad news is we were very poor. The good news is all of my mother's teacher energy was devoted to only one student, me.
you,
So I knew how to add, subtract, multiply, and divide before I went to school. So when I go to school, I'm so far ahead of the others. I came back home the first day and told my mother I must be the smartest person who ever lived because I seemed so far ahead. Of course, I had been nothing but trained from birth almost. So I was brought up with a very positive self-image and a belief that I could succeed. And I was given a huge head start in life by a mother who basically devoted her life to training me. And she basically also kept telling me, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. You can be successful. You do not have to stay here. So I was brought up with a very, very strong background from my mother who just encouraged me to, believe in myself.
ah, and then when you went to university, if you look back in that time, why did you choose a career in mathematical economics instead of any other majors out there for you to choose?
Well, obviously you've done your homework, which is great. Yes, In America, they have something called the SAT test, which is the college entrance test. And I got a perfect score on the SAT math achievement test. So, therefore, it was not illogical to think that I should kind of go into mathematics. And although I have a very good aptitude in mathematics, I really quickly lost interest in it. And although my undergrad degree is in mathematical economics, my real interest was always more in the humanities courses. And I started studying Buddhism, for example, when I was 18 or 19 years old. So I always found that more interesting than mathematics. So that's kind of got me off the mathematics track. Then eventually I went back and got an MBA at Indiana. And then I went on to get a PhD in organizational behavior at UCLA. So I kind of evolved much more toward a people element rather than the numbers element.
But why organizational behavior as psychology? Why did you choose that for the PhD program?
I mean, you have to realize that wasn't that serious. It just sounded like fun. I got a job offer from IBM as a data process marketing representative, right? Very good offer. After I got an MBA degree, but I was single and young, and I thought, what the heck? Let's take 5 years off, 4 years off from reality and get a PhD at UCLA. It seemed nice, pretty campus, pretty women running around. I thought, well, this sounds like fun. Let's just go to Los Angeles for 4 years and do this. And I got his fellowship. I didn't have to, it was all free. I got paid to go to school. So for me, it was just, an opportunity. And had I been older or more serious or married, I wouldn't have done it. But I was young and single. I thought, why not?
And then how's the journey happen after that, right after you, how's the journey for you to build your professional career after that?
Well, in my field, I was very, very fortunate. My experience of getting a PhD was quite different than today. It had almost nothing to do with today. When I was in school, we focused a lot on internal things. Who am I? Why am I here? What is life all about? And I was in something called encounter groups for 8 hours a day, 2 days a week for 6 months. So I would be in one for 2 hours, lead one for 2 hours, watch one for 2 hours, and then we'd have a process for 2 hours. So, it was a very intensive process. So I was very, very fortunate to be around a lot of very deep people who were my teachers. And I'll tell you one story that kind of shaped my life. I just got into UCLA, and I was in a class with old Dr. Tannenbaum, a very brilliant man. And we were encouraged to talk about whatever we wanted to talk about. So I talked about people in Los Angeles. And aren't they screwed up? They wear these $85 sequin blue jeans, and they drive around in these $200,000 Bentleys, and they're plastic and materialistic, and all they do is care about impressing others. So for 3 weeks, blah, 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 I talk about people in Los Angeles and how plastic and materialistic, and all they care about is impressing people. So after 3 weeks, old Dr. Tannenbaum scratches his beard. He goes, Marshall, who are you talking to? I said, well, I guess I'm talking to everyone. He said, I don't know if you realize this. Every time you've spoken, you've looked at only one person and seem interested in the opinion of only one person. Who is that person? Well, I thought about it. I thought it was interesting. That'll be you. He said, well, why me? There are 10 other people in the room. He said, Dr. Tannenbaum, I think a person with your deep background can understand the true significance of what I'm saying about how screwed up it is just to try to impress people all the time. So he looks at me, he scratches his beard, he goes, well, is there any chance for the last 3 weeks, all you've been doing is trying to impress me? I said, well, no. I said, I'm very disappointed. I don't think you've understood a single thing I've said. I've just been explaining how bad it is to impress others. I think you've missed the entire point. So he goes, I think I understand. I look around the room, I see these 10 heads. I hated old Dr. Tannenbaum's guts for 6 months. 6 months later, I said, thank you, sir. You just taught me a great lesson of life. Well, that was a kind of experience I had over and over at school, where we talked about why are you doing this and what's the real deeper motivation. And it was very different than today, where you're doing research studies with numbers and, measuring. This was very different. It was much more about life. So a lot of my education was around very deep people. I was in groups like this for years, where we talked about life and people and everything. So I feel very fortunate. I had a very unusual education. very different education. And today you don't see that much anymore.
Mm. Marshall, in this busy city like Los Angeles, right? And then you are thinking completely different from a lot of other people. And is there anything happen? Has there anything happened in the background, in the history that makes you think differently than the rest of the people back then and until now?
Well, also, I'm a Buddhist. And, a lot of what I do is Buddhist philosophy. So my new book, The Earned Life, is largely a Buddhist philosophy book.
Mm.
Now, I'm not a religious Buddhist. I'm a philosophical Buddhist. And, Thich Nhat Hanh, who is from Vietnam, was my Buddhist monk. And yeah, so I'm a philosophical Buddhist. And, Buddha was brought up rich and he was protected from life. And he lived in a bubble. And he was able to sneak outside this bubble 3 times. First time, what did he learn? People get old. Second time, people get sick. Third time, you die. You get old, you get sick, and you die. And Buddha realized all of this money and beauty and all that doesn't matter. You still get old, sick, and die. You cannot be happy with more. Buddha learned you cannot be happy with more. So he lived then out in the woods and starved himself. And he tried to find peace with less. You know what he finally learned? You can never be happy with less. You can never make peace with less. He finally realized one thing. There's only one thing you can make peace with, what you have. There's only one time you can be happy, now. There's only one place you can be happy, here. This is it.
Mm.
Yep. So where is Nirvana? Nirvana is listening to this call right now with us talking. This is it. It's not out there someplace. It's in here.
Well, I think COVID really teaches a great lesson to look back your life and look after who you love instead of chasing something that maybe take a while or trying to be more aggressive or competitive. I think for our cultures as well, a lot of time that because of the country development, a lot of competitions happening. So I think for young kids, we also need to shed some light for them.
Mm.
So if you can travel back in time, maybe go to Asia, what would you tell the young kids to look after, to look at life, how it would be?
Well, I mean, if I go to Ho Chi Minh City, Ho Chi Minh City is more capitalist than New York City.
Yep.
I mean, strip joints, tattoo parlors, bars, music, rock and roll, drinking. I mean, Ho Chi Minh City is, Ho Chi Minh would turn over in his grave if he saw Ho Chi Minh City today. And for good and bad, and I think it's good and bad, for good and bad, the young people in Vietnam have started to acquire the Western ways of I'll be happy when. When I get the money, status, BMW, when I buy that Gucci purse, I will be happy when I get that status, as opposed to saying, be happy now and find peace now. So it's interesting. I think a lot of the historic philosophy of your country is probably getting lost.
Mm.
Same thing's true in India. I mean, in India, people say, do I know anything about Indian culture? More than 95% of the people in India do, because they don't know anything about Indian culture. That's all gone. So, Vietnam has become very westernized in most ways. And so what I would say to people is, you're not going to find happiness out there.
Mm.
Now, in my book, I talk about 3 things that really the most significant feedback I get on the book is about this. What matters in life? Well, what matters in life is a few things. One, you need to be healthy. If you don't have your health, well, the rest doesn't matter much. But my book is not a book about being healthy. Mm-hmm. 2, you need at least a lower middle class level of income. After that, there's not a lot of relationship between money and happiness. And then finally, you need to be, you need to be healthy. You have people you love. But let's assume you're healthy. You have people that you love, and you have at least a lower middle class level of income. What matters? There's only 3 things that matters. 1, you need a higher aspiration. Why am I doing this? What is the purpose of all this? You need some sense of purpose and higher aspiration. 2 is you need to have ambitions that are connected to that purpose. You want to achieve things. Now, your aspiration is not just in the sky, you're doing something. And then 3, it's your day-to-day actions of life. And so what happens is, if you look at the history of the world, most of our ancestors, mine and yours, were very poor people. They lived from day to day. They were farmers. They lived in caves. They were very poor. And they lived in that action phase, the day-to-day life. They had a very short-term time horizon, and they were just trying to be happy and stay alive.
Mm.
Some people are lost in the aspiration phase. They have very lofty thoughts and ideals. They're pretty much disconnected with the real world. They don't achieve a whole lot. They kind of live in their heads. The challenge that I find with the people I coach, which is probably your challenge and most of your listeners' challenge, is we're addicted to achievement. We're addicted to achievement, and we think that somehow everything's going to be good after we achieve something. And, you know, it will all be fine after I achieve this, that, and the other. And one thing I talk about in the book is never place your value as a human being on achievement for two reasons. One, you don't control the outcomes. So never place your value as a human being on the outcomes of what you do. You don't control the outcomes. You didn't invent COVID. There's millions of things that happen that influence the outcomes that you don't have any control over. Two, though, which is much more important, is what happens if you achieve something? How long does that bring satisfaction? A week? A month, maybe? Then what do you have to do? More. More. The Buddhist term is the hungry ghost. The hungry ghost is always eating but never full. But when you're addicted to achievement, you're like that hungry ghost. You're always eating, but you're never going to be full, and you'll never be satisfied. One of the people that endorsed the book you have is named Albert Bourla. By the way, one thing I'm proud of in the book is if you read the first 6 pages of the endorsements of the book, those are pretty impressive.
We have the book here, and then we will talk about the book. We bought some of these to our friends who are executives also, and I had a chance to talk to him before. One of them before we left to my hometown, and the part of the ambitious really struck him because he has been on the mode of taking action, hitting the ambition, getting to the ladder, and then what you said in the book really, he said that he couldn't sleep because, and then he asked around in his management team, and it's new for everybody. I say, buy the books, go Amazon, ordering it, and start to have everybody start to read, because actually it's also impact on, it's also reflect on who we are doing also a lot, Marshall. And we will reserve another half part of the conversation for the book, and can I bring you back on to the journey that because there's so many good things that we want to explore in here, and I'm a little bit
Yes. Well, let me just finish with my one point on the book. One of the people in the book is Albert Bourla, who's the CEO of Pfizer. So I asked Albert a few months ago, how's it going? How was last year? He said, last year, whoa, very good. Came up with a vaccine for COVID. Oh, saved 1 billion lives. Oh, CEO of the year. Oh, company stock all-time high. Whoa, very good. Wrote a book. Employee engagement, highest ever. Oh, so I said, Albert, what's your problem in life? He said, I have a huge problem. Next year. Next year. Well, that's the way life is. You can't make your value based on that. Because what happens next year? More. So go ahead, back to the story. Questions about life.
Yeah. You are ranking as the world #1 executive coach, the founding father of this coaching space, also executive coaching space also. And we want to know how's everything, connecting. Now all the dots starting to connect from you, has been connected for a while. Can you share with us that experience and to start first?
Well, there was nothing called coaching. When I started doing this, there was nothing called coaching or executive coaching. There was no such phrase. So what happened is I met a guy who was the CEO of a big company, and he said, I have this kid working for me, young, smart, dedicated, hardworking, driven to achieve, arrogant, stubborn jerk. He said, it would be worth a fortune to me if you could change this kid's behavior. I said, I like fortunes. Maybe I can help him. He said, no, I doubt it. And I said, maybe I could help him. He said, no, I don't think so. Then I came up with an idea. So I'll work with this kid for a year. If he gets better, pay me. If it does not get better, it's all free. What did the CEO say? Sold. That's how I got into coaching. There was nothing called coaching. I just made it up.
From that, that's very bold of you to invest in the whole year, and then with the trust, the result will unveil at the end of the tunnel. And otherwise, your whole year of work will be just like an experiment without any pay, right? And then from that first moment of what you call coaching,
Right.
all right, and up until all the achievement that you have right now, been working and top of mind for a lot of CEO. It's not easy to get into that ladder of works, that body of works. What contributes to that, Marshall?
Well, most of what I've learned, and again, if you look at the book, read the first chapter, it says most of what I learned from these people.
Yeah.
They didn't learn that much from me. I learned that much from them. So years ago, I will tell you a story that changed my life.
Yeah.
I was working with a man named Alan Mulally. Alan is probably the greatest corporate CEO in the world in the last 30 or 40 years. And I spent less time coaching him than anyone I ever coached. And he improved the most, and he was great to start with. And the client I spent the most amount of time with didn't improve at all, and I didn't get paid. So I said, I made a chart. On one dimension was called time spent with Marshall Goldsmith. The other dimension was called improvement. There was a negative correlation between spending time with me and improving. This is bad. So I talked to my friend Alan. By the way, he's still my friend. We're working on a new book together. So I said to my friend Alan, of all the people I've coached, I spent the least amount of time with you, and you were great to start with, and you still improved the most. And the client I spent the most amount of time with didn't improve. I showed Alan my chart. I said, Alan, the way this chart looks, had you never met me, you would have been even better. So I asked Alan, what should I learn about coaching from you? He taught me something that totally changed my life. He said, your whole problem or your whole challenge as a coach is called customer selection. If you pick great customers, your coaching process will always work. You pick the wrong customer, your coaching process will never work. Never make coaching about yourself and your own ego and how smart you think you are. Make it about the great people you work with. And by the way, just help great people get better. Well, nobody thought of that before. Do a Google search, in quotes, 3 words, helping successful leaders. The first 500 hits you get, 450 are me. The entire rest of the world is 50. It's my brand. I learned that from him. Why do I always get ranked #1 coach in the world? Nobody knows I'm a good coach. Nobody watches me coach people. Why do I always get ranked #1 coach? I have the #1 customers. I have the #1 clients. And it's not about me. It's about them.
Wow.
So Marshall, can I ask, are some people coachable? Some are not.
Well, for me, you have to realize I'm very fortunate. I don't have to do anything. And I also, if you don't get paid unless people get results, you get very selective about who you work with because I don't want to waste my money and time. So in my coaching process, #1, I only coach people that care. So if they don't want to care, I don't care. I've learned a hard lesson. My name is Marshall Goldsmith, not Jesus Christ. So, I'm really not in the business of saving people. If someone doesn't care, goodbye. #1, they have to care. 2, they have to have an issue that I know about, which is behavioral issue, leadership issue. And 3, they have to be willing to try and be given a fair chance. If they're willing to try, they're given a fair chance, and their issues are behavioral, my coaching process will always work. If those conditions don't exist, I don't work with them. So how do I convince people to do anything? I don't. I make 0 effort to convince anyone of anything.
In your busy schedule, Marshall, and you've been coaching, you've been teaching, you've been, advising executives and a lot of other works that you do. How could you, and plus the travel time around the world in 202 countries, right? How did you make time for writing those amazing books, Marshall?
Well, my 5 best books, I didn't write. No, look at that book. Look at the cover. It says Marshall Goldsmith, and under that it says Mark Ryder.
Mm.
Mark
Mm.
Ryder writes the books.
Ah.
I have the ideas.
Mm.
He tapes it. We talk more. He writes. I edit. We go through over and over, and a year later we have a book. So I've done 4 books with him. They have all been New York Times bestsellers.
Ah.
Why? I couldn't. By the way, the book The Earned Life, I could not have written that book. Why? I'm a very good writer, by the way. So I'm not putting myself down. I'm a very good writer. I am not nearly as good as he is.
Mm.
He is a much better writer than I am. And oddly enough, when he writes, it sounds like me talking. When I write, it does not sound like me talking.
How come?
See, one of my problems is I have a PhD. And most people who have a PhD can't write at all. They learn this academic style of writing that's basically unreadable to normal people.
But isn't it taking?
Did he just say but?
I'm
One
sorry.
of the things, yeah, you just said the word but.
Yeah. She told me a lot about that.
Now, in my book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There, when I coach people, they have to pay $20 to charity every time they say but. So it's very, very bad.
We'll put $20 tomorrow for charity, and
Yeah.
if from now to the end of the conversation, if any other that word, I will
Yeah.
take another 20.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, don't start sentences with 3 words. No, but, or however. I find my clients $20 every time they do that, and I collected lots of money for charity.
If I go ahead, I pretty much make a lot of money from him.
She asked me a lot on our conversation also, because I think that from our language, you know, when we try to change something in conversation.
Yeah.
No
Oh, this
excuse.
is terrible. Blame my language. Oh, come on. This has nothing to do with your language. Oh, that's pathetic. Yeah, blame my blood, blame my culture, blame my language, blame my boss. He's going to blame your wife. You know, blame someone.
Thanks to you. I'm not gonna blame it. Thanks to you. Marshall, isn't it taking more time to collaborate between you and Mark instead of doing it by yourself, or isn't it taking longer time for writing a book? You doing it that way?
You know, I think for me it's probably faster. Number one, it's certainly better though.
Ah.
Certainly better. And my 5th most popular book is How Women Rise with Sally Helgeson. And she wrote that book. And, you know, I'm a contributor, but she wrote the book. So, yeah, everybody has different skills. He's also my agent. So he's my book agent. So he and I split everything 50-50. So we split all the money in half. We're great partners. We have a wonderful relationship. And before I met him, the largest advance I got for a book was $20,000 US. After I met him, I got $550,000, $650,000, $1 million, and $1.2 million. And so I'm happy to give him half because, you know, my background in mathematics, half of 1.2 million is more than all of 20,000.
Well, Marshall, now we want to go to this book. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And first, congratulations for bringing it to life. There's a lot of things that people need to read and learn from you, definitely, and definitely from this book, how to earn, have the earn life. So we would like to ask you this: why did you come up with this idea?
Well, you know, I came up with this idea because over COVID, I spent with my friend Mark Thompson. We spent every weekend 6 hours with these 50 amazing people who I talk about in the book. And they would rotate in various groups of 8, and they would talk about their lives. And it really helped me understand the value of we're constantly restarting in life, and we're constantly re-earning our life. And some people ask me, is Buddhism about reincarnation? Buddhism is about nothing but reincarnation. Everything is reincarnation. You're reincarnated every time you take a breath. We're constantly a new person. We're constantly starting over. And that really, working with those people, inspired me to write the book, The Earned Life. And if you look at these people, for example, back to achievement, they're all at 99.999% achievement. Some of the people in the group were the football all-star, the basketball all-star, the head of the Olympic Committee, the president of the World Bank, the head of the Rockefeller Foundation, major CEOs, Broadway stars. You know, these are amazing people. And I learned a lot from these people, and I learned what's good and what's bad about achievement.
And what is the book for? Who's the audience that you're aiming for reading this kind of book, Marshall?
You know, my audience is largely, and I don't select the audience, but I have done studies of who buys my books. My books are mostly bought by people who graduate from college, and more than half have graduate degrees. And they're mostly people who are interested in life or psychology or philosophy or, you know, coaching or something like that. So that's my audience. And, you know, I think the book is good for anyone. The reality is, so very few people actually buy books. I mean, the huge majority of people do not buy or read books. So the audience is, although big in one level, it's small at another. I've sold 2.5, 3 million books. It's a big audience at one level. On another level, it's a small audience. It's a big world.
And if we want to have the earned life, how do we, you know, what is the earned life definition of that in your vision about that?
I have the book right here, so I never mess this up. We are living an earned life when the choices, risks, and effort we make in each moment align with an overarching purpose in our lives, regardless of the eventual outcome.
Wow.
And this is very not Western. See, the Western disease, which by the way has conquered Vietnam largely, so you can say you're not Western, but last time I was there, it looked pretty Western to me. It looked pretty Western to me. And the great Western art form is always the same. You may have seen this before. The great art form, it looks like this. There's a person. The person is sad. They spend money. They buy a product, and they become happy. This is called a commercial. Have you ever seen a commercial before? How many thousands of commercials have you seen? Hundreds of thousands of commercials. Over and over, the same message. You will be happy when. You will be happy when. You will be happy when. Happiness is out there. It's out there. Buy the product. Make the money. You will be happy. It's all good then. That's the great Western disease. And the essence of Buddhism is, no, you won't. You're not going to buy happiness. You can't buy peace. It's on the inside. It's not the outside.
Yep. For the young people, normally, like I was young, we try to also, we fall into the trap of having more and looking out there to purchase here and there and here and there to quickly fill up our happiness level until, you know, the moment that we got it and we started to feel empty again and looking for something different. And that is something that I almost said the word but, okay? Because of that $20 from you, it make me become more cautious in the words I said. Thank you. And for a lot of young people, the life is for them to experiment, so that they can start to feel like what was working for them was not working. So if we get, you know, if we now want to tell them that, you know, the happiness actually from the inside, some of them might not be able to, you know, to get at that level, experience, you know, understanding and welcoming the idea. So how can I come into the people that is really, really young, but have a very, very good career success stories, career performance, and telling them to start to think differently about how they get into this life and how they want to get out of this life at the end?
Well, I'll give you the story of the golfer and the beer can.
Yes.
Okay. There's a golfer who is playing in a little country club championship. And it's the final hole, and he has a chance to win for the first time. Oh, he's very excited. In front of him is a loud group of people drinking beer, making noise, very annoying. The golfer hits the shot. It looks perfect. Pew! Something happens. The ball bounces away into a terrible position. The golfer walks toward the ball. What happened? The idiots in front of him have left a beer can. The golfer is angry. What, those fools? What does the golfer need to do? Stop. Breathe. Forget about the shot. Forget about the idiots. Forget about the beer can. Let it go. Let it go. You walk to the ball, you have a strategy, and you hit the shot in front of you. You don't focus on the outcome. You don't focus on winning the tournament. You hit the shot. So you see, what I'm talking about is not going to stop you from achieving. You actually can achieve more because you're not focused on what you can't change. He can't change the idiots in front of him. He can't change the beer can. He can't change what happened. And he doesn't know who's going to win the tournament. There's only one thing the golfer can do. Hit the shot. Focus on hitting the shot. Well, when we get fixated on achievement, we're not focused on, when we get fixated on the outcome, we're not focused on hitting the shot. The greatest college basketball coach in history of the United States was John Wooden at UCLA. He was a coach when I was there. I met him several times. He only focused on one thing. He never focused on winning the game. He always focused on do your best. The best modern coach is named Coach K at Duke. Same thing. Next, he always say this: whatever happened in the last play, the players jumping up and down cheering. Next play, next play. The player's sad. Next play, next play. Whatever happened, it's done. It's done. Next play. So a lot of it is, start over. Start over. And the past is done. Now, okay, I want you to look at that guy. Look at him, this fellow on the interview. The guy next to you. I'm talking to you. Look at this man.
I'm looking at this guy now.
that guy, right. Now, occasionally, does she remember your previous sins and bring them up, mistakes you've made in the past? So whatever sins he's committed in the past, it's over. Whatever sins she's committed in the past, it's over. Let go of the past. Focus on the future.
And Marshall, that is one of the highest things that I admire from you. For every email exchange between you and I, we always see the great energies in every word that you use, starting with greetings from Nashville, greetings from here and there. And every word is really powerful and positive. Every post that you share, also the thing or the books that you are writing, and also helping people get into it better. We want to know how can you build the strength and the reservoirs within you to go against all the odds, all the challenges in life, all the negatives out there, all the harsh that you've been seeing in our life, to continually for that many years doing things like that consistently.
Well, Peter Drucker taught me many wonderful lessons. One of the lessons is our mission in life is to make a positive difference, not to prove we're smart, not to prove we're right. We're here on earth just to make a positive difference. And what he taught me is, in one of my books, I say, am I willing at this time to make the investment required to make a positive difference on this topic? If the answer is yes, fine, do it. If the answer is no, let it go. For 99% of life, we're not going to change it. You're not going to change the war in the Ukraine. You're not going to change the government, probably of Vietnam. For 99% of everything, you're going to do absolutely nothing about it. So as I've grown older, I've actually become much simpler. My mission is very simple: to help you and the people listening to this very call have just a little better life. That's all. That's all. Yeah, that's all. I don't have to do anything else.
Wow. Thank you so much for doing that. You are a role model for me and for a lot of people that following your works and all of the books that you write change us a lot. I happen to read the book What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and I was a high performer, okay, and when I read that one, it's really a turning point in my life. And then my wife also told me that I had to change a lot from being a jerk to less of being a jerk. And one of the source of changing to me was the book. You know, what got you here, what got you there, and I bought a lot of that to give to a lot of friends of mine also who I start to see this common sense, common things that we've been having in and can stop and have more time to think and reflect on what really matters to us. And so now, you know, we get a chance to talk to the creator of that book and creator of the new is the masterpiece of the earned life, Marshall. So I would like to ask to the future. Okay. So congratulations for all the work that you've been doing. And we always like to know if anything that you are doing that exciting, any new projects, anything that excites you, and you want to share with Vivian and the audience so that we can celebrate in advance with you.
Well, I'm always working on new projects. And so, you know, I mean, I have about 5 books in my mind all the time. So I've no shortage of ideas. So one idea I'd like to do is I'd like to write a book about Buddhism, only it would be applied Buddhism. How does Buddhism apply to day-to-day life? Because, you know, again, I'm a philosophical Buddhist, and a lot of what I teach is basic Buddhist philosophy. Another one I'd like to write is about my great old mentor, Peter Drucker, of what I learned from Peter Drucker and how you can use that in your life today. So those are 2 projects that I would like to do to honor, you know, to honor a couple people that have changed my life.
Wow. And any timeline you think that's gonna come into the market?
Well, no idea.
So that's we have to ask Mark.
I just got done with the last book, you know. So.
Marshall, in our cultures, when I read a bit about the earned life, blues regret, choose fulfillment, a lot of our thinking in the culture here is that regret gives us a lot of lessons. So having regret is something that you can carry on, you know, with your life, so you don't make that mistake again. So I think this is something we want to change because it's also, you know, not making you happy, even though a good lesson can be learned. So can I hear from your advice how to lose that kind of regret and what regret that we should carry? Some should be carried, not lose it all, to make our life more fulfilled.
Well, I'll give you the best coaching advice that anyone is ever going to give you or anyone else. Are you ready?
Yes.
Breathe. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Imagine that you're 95 years old and you're just getting ready to die. And you're on the deathbed. Here comes your last breath. Before you take the last breath, you're given a beautiful gift. The ability to go back in time and talk to the person who's listening to me right now. The ability to help this person be a better professional, a better leader. Much more important, the ability to help this person have a better life. What advice would the wise 95-year-old you, who knows what really mattered in life and what did not matter and what was really important, what was not important, what advice would that wise old person have for the you that is listening to me right now? Don't say anything, write anything, do anything. Answer that question in your mind. That old person is looking at death. You're given a gift. Go back in time. What advice would they have? Whatever you're thinking now, do that. In terms of a performance appraisal, that is the only one that will ever matter. That old person says you did the right thing, you did the right thing. That old person says you made a mistake, you made a mistake. You don't have to impress anyone else. Some friends of mine interviewed old people who were dying to get to ask this question. What advice would you have? On the personal side, 3 themes. Theme number 1, 3 words. Be happy now. Be happy now. Not next week, not next month, not after I get the BMW, after I get the promotion, after I get this and that and the other. Be happy now. The great Western disease, I will be happy when. That old person looking at death is when. We all have exactly the same when. That's when. Be happy now. Learning point number 2, friends and family. Never get so busy climbing the ladder of success you forget the people you love. When you're 95 years old and you look around your deathbed, none of your coworkers are waving goodbye. And number 3, if you have a dream, go for it. Because if you don't go for it when you're 35, you may not when you're 85. And it doesn't have to be a big dream, maybe a small one. Go to New Zealand or speak Spanish or play guitar. Other people think your dream is goofy. Who cares? It's not their dream, it's your dream. I had a very embarrassing experience a few years ago. I was teaching my class and I said, go to New Zealand, speak Spanish. Guy raised his hand. He said, we're in Spain, you moron. We all speak Spanish. Business advice is not much different. Number 1, life is short. Have fun. Have fun. Okay, I'll ask him a question. How old are you?
We?
Yes, you.
I'm 40 and she's...
I didn't ask you how old she was, right?
Oh, sorry.
Did you? I'm still 18.
Bad partner, bad partner.
Maybe this is not that word, so this is only half of the price.
Yeah, so you're 40, is that correct?
Yes, I'm 40.
Now, you might look at me and think, lucky old man. Look at what he has, millions of dollars. Has a home in Nashville, home in New York City, new home in Dubai. I live in the Burj Khalifa, beautiful place. Home in Dubai, gets to meet interesting people, writes best-selling books. Gee, lucky old man, I wish I could be him. You have something I don't have. 33 years. You want the best-selling book? You give me the 33 years, we have a deal. Well, the point is, never look at other people and say, I want to be them.
Yeah.
Never look at someone else. You just focus on this person. And the business advice isn't much different. Life is short. Have fun. Do whatever you can do to help people. The main reason to help people has nothing to do with money or status or getting ahead. The main reason to help people is much deeper. The 95-year-old you will be very proud of you because you did and disappointed if you don't. And the final advice is go for it. Do what you can. You may not win, at least you tried. Old people, we seldom regret the risk we take and fail. We always regret the risk we fail to take.
Marshall, in the first thing that you mentioned is happiness. And my wife and I have been trying to help a lot of people around us to find the happiness. And some is like, it's really hard for them to build that muscle of being happy, right? And those, I'm not talking about those out there far away from us. We're talking about somebody that really close into our life, which is my mom. Okay, she has everything that a lot of people want. She has the good family, good reputation, it's good follower of Christ and everything. So everything's good for her, but a lot of things that inside of her could not making her happy. Now I look at you and all the work that you do as a person really fulfilling your life. What is the one advice that you can tell her that I can transfer to her tonight and say, hey, Marshall, tell you to do this so you can be happier?
Well, I would have her fill out a test, one question every day. It's a simple question. Did I do my best to be happy today? Did I do my best to be happy? In one of my books, Triggers, I interviewed 3 medical doctors. 3 of the smartest people I've ever met. Dr. Jim Kim, who was president of the World Bank, Dr. John Nosler, the head of the Mayo Clinic, and Dr. Raj Shah, who's now head of the Rockefeller Foundation. And I asked them all a question. On the average day, 1 to 10, 10 is high, 1 is low, how would you score the answer to this question? Did I do my best to be happy? All 3 had the same answer. Never dawned on me to try to be happy. I never even thought. It never occurred to me to try to be happy. I never thought about it. I was too busy achieving things. I was just too busy achieving things. Now, they're all medical doctors. I said, you know, and you went to medical school. Did they cover death in medical school? Did they bring up that topic of dying? They said, oh, yeah, they covered that in medical school. Well, I said, do you think this is a silly question? No, I said, it's an important question I forgot to ask. We forget to try to be happy. We get so busy doing stuff, we forget to try to be happy. So every day to your mother, one question: did I do my best today to be happy?
Did I do my
You
best?
can't change the environment. On the other hand, you can always say, did I do my best? It doesn't even say you succeeded. Did you even try to be happy? Did you even bother to try? Yeah, so every day, be happy.
Thank you very much. I'm having the last question of today, Marshall, and this is something that Vivian and I are always intrigued to know. Okay, we have the belief that the ability of thinking for the people around us is not increasing; actually, it's decreasing. Okay, and every chance that we meet with great thinker, great people, we always want to ask, how do you think? How do you make yourself think and make a space for you to nourish the thinking process? Can you help us to unveil that secret from Marshall Goldsmith way of doing?
Well, it's very similar to the advice I gave your mother about being happy. If you want to set aside time to think, you have to set aside time to think. And what happens is we get so busy doing stuff that we don't set time aside to just think. So one of the things I try to do is just set time aside to do nothing but think.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can set the time to think, but I could not think anything. So how can I how can I set a time for 2 hours a day to think and really force myself to think?
Well, breathing, breathing, breathing. Breathing, breathing, breathing. Just set the time aside and things will come. Yeah, breathing, breathing. Ideas will come. You have not been setting the time aside.
Yep.
Now you see, he made an excuse. He's very gifted at one thing, making excuses. I've noticed that, blaming the culture, didn't have time, all that nonsense. Set the time aside.
Thank you, Marshall. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that having the conversation with you. I'm also would like to say a lot of thank you to you for all the advice that you sent to me via emails over the years. I really appreciate that. And I wish you to always be happy and always be healthy, always be wise so that you can always bring more amazing thing for people around us. I don't want you to get into the phenomenon of the words of more. But yes, we would want more from you, and there's a lot of people who want more from you. So please stay the best, so that you can, always create the best to and leave the legacy for us. Okay, for yourself actually.
Thank you.
The next time that you travel to Vietnam, please put Vivi and I on the list. We would love to meet you in person, and we would love to give you a big hug for being the big figures in our lives. Okay?
Thank you so much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.